What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Justin Ford podcast, where I'll be releasing life-changing principles and valuable information focused on all things faith, finance, family, fitness, real estate, and so much more. Let's go! What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Justin Ford Unleashed podcast. Super excited to be with you here again today. Hopefully you've been doing great since the last episode. Super excited to be with you again here today. Hey, listen, do me a favor. If you're loving this show, go ahead and do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Feel free to share this on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're really loving the show, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. And if you want to follow me on social media, you can at the official Justin Ford. Again, at the official Justin Ford. You can find me here on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on Twitter, and I appreciate all the love and the support. Again, excited to be with you here again today. I got an absolutely incredible guest here with us today, but before we get into that, I wanted to remind you that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Next Door Lending. Next Door Lending is a team of professionals that believe everyone should be treated as if they lived next door. The founders and team members have more than 150 years of combined experience helping clients all over the country choose the best loan program to help you accomplish your goals. Next Door Lending is currently licensed in over 25 states and has a team of over 100 loan officers specializing in helping you get the best rate and terms. Whether you're looking to refinance your home or you're looking to purchase your next home, call my friends over at Next Door Lending today at 888-885-3667 or visit their website at nextdoorlending.com. You know, you guys, it's been over a year that we've been doing the podcast, and one of the things that I absolutely love, especially when considering, you know, bringing guests on the show, is that they have something to share of value, right? That they have a story. You know, you guys all know my story. I've had to overcome a lot of adversity. You know, I've gone through a lot of trials and tribulations and had to overcome a lot to get where I am. And, you know, one of the things that you'll learn about people, you know, who are succeeding and doing great things with their lives is there is a backstory, right? It's not everything that you see up front. I was just sharing this yesterday with somebody that a lot of times people see the highlight reel, they see the success, you know, they see what you're doing today, but they don't see what you've done to get there. And even at a Glover U convention, which the guest that I'm going to introduce to you here in a moment was actually there, you know, John Maxwell was at our Glover U conference back in January. And one of the things that, you know, that John Maxwell said from stage is he said, oftentimes people come up to him and say, I want to do what you do. And he said, well, in order to do what I do, you got to do what I did. And it really just spoke to me, and it spoke to the audience, because a lot of times we see where people are today. We see their success. We see the accolades. We see all the great achievements, but we don't see the struggle. We don't see the backstory. We don't see the hardship and the obstacles that many people have had to go through in order to get to that success, right? That's why they say, you know, sometimes, or, you know, when somebody pops on the scene and all of a sudden becomes super successful, like, you're an overnight success. And really, nobody's an overnight success, right? There were hours and hours and hours and hardship after hardship to get to that ultimate point. And that's what I love about, you know, the guests that I have here today. You know, before I bring them on, I just want to give you a little bit of background. You know, Andy Nelson, he is a business owner. He owns multiple brokerage offices here in the real estate industry. You know, he is selling, you know, 75 plus homes a year individually. He's also a coach. He's a family man. He's got a lot of other great things that he's going to share about himself. And he's also a U.S. Navy veteran. And I'd like to introduce my guest today, Andy Nelson with Iron Valley Real Estate. Good morning, my brother. How are you today?
Good morning, Justin. I'm doing well. Thanks for that awesome introduction, man.
Absolutely, man. So excited to have you today. And, you know, what's awesome is you're my second virtual guest. You know, we've all of our shows besides the last a couple of shows that we've done. A few shows ago, we had one of my business partners from Kentucky on, and so you're the second to be virtual. So I'm excited to have you on, and because you're not obviously here in Michigan, where you at right now?
So I'm in Virginia Beach, Virginia, Hampton Roads area.
Yeah, nice, nice. And you're kicking butt. And before the show started, we talked about the weather down there is a lot nicer than it is here in Michigan, right? Did you say it's 80 degrees already?
It's supposed to be like 80, 82 today, I think. Um,
Man,
it comes along with the pollen, right? Everything
yeah,
has a yellow blanket on it right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's going to be like 50 here today in Michigan, and so I always say, hey, that's a great day for us. 50 degrees is like spring is close.
Well,
Excited to
and
have you, man.
that's the other reason why I preferred virtual versus
Yeah.
being in Michigan right
Right.
now.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have you, man. And I know that we've had a chance to get to know each other through Glover U, and I've been following your journey and seeing all the success that you've been having, and really, it wasn't till recently that you kind of shared the backstory, and obviously I know you spoke at the Glover U conference, and you were on one of the panels and kind of shared your story, but I love having people, on the show who have a story. And we all have a story, right? I just think a lot of people are afraid to share their story, or they're ashamed of their story because, when you have tough times in life and when you go through difficult times, a lot of times you don't want to share those things. But I believe, and obviously my story, those are the things that can help inspire other people. And so let's first start like this. Like, how did you tell us your story? How did you get into real estate? Talk about, I know that you're a U.S. Navy veteran. I'd love to hear, more of your story on how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the best place to start would be while on active duty.
Yeah.
Active duty Navy, I was fortunate enough to be stationed on a shore command and not on a ship like most
Yeah.
sailors are.
Yep.
Um, but the downside of that is I was broke. I had an
Mm,
apartment, I had a family, and I really could barely afford to pay my bills.
yeah.
I had this conversation with my 19-year-old daughter last night about, I would alternate between the power bill and the water bill because I knew it wouldn't get shut off, if I paid one last month and pay the other
Yep.
one this month because we just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Um, so I picked up a part-time job working
Yep.
with a property manager, the guy that I actually rented my apartment from, and I got into construction. So
Yeah.
apartment maintenance, move out cleaning, stuff like that. Um, Shortly thereafter, he partnered with a contractor who had an investor who was doing flip properties.
Mm,
So I was the demo guy, the flooring guy, the drywall, the painter. I was doing all of that
yeah.
um, because I needed extra money to support my family.
Yep.
And every Friday, a real estate agent would come by in his BMW in his nice clothes, and he would drop off a check to the contractor. And after about the third or fourth time, I just approached him. I said, "Look, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do what you're doing."
I
And
love
he
it.
said, "Go get your real estate license, and I'll teach you." And that's
Wow.
what I did. And that's where it started. Still on
Wow.
active duty. Got into real estate. My very first client was a coworker, a fellow sailor. Um, we had basically everything ready to go as soon as my license went active. We put her under contract, and then the ball just started rolling from there.
Yeah. That's exciting. And, I love what you said because I remember those days where, you know, I remember getting shut off notices. I remember, robbing Peter to pay Paul, just to be able to, make it. And I love what you said that you did whatever it took, right? You went out and got, another job. You were looking for other opportunities. And I think that, that's I was actually interviewed on a podcast yesterday, and one of the things that we were talking about was just that determination, right? That you're no matter what you're going through, no matter what the circumstances are, rather than sitting back and saying "woe is me," or rather than sitting back and just kind of submitting to the obstacles or challenges, that you have to just find a way to win, especially if you have a family, right? I mean,
Right.
because now you got other people depending upon you and relying on you. And so how many years did you serve in the Navy?
Just under 6 years.
Nice. And so did you go into the Navy right out of high school?
Oh man, no, that's a whole nother story. So originally, out of high school, I had a full ride scholarship to play Division I baseball. Um,
Wow.
I I redshirted my freshman year, never saw the field. Um, NCAA likes to do random drug tests on scholarship athletes, and
Yeah.
my school did not take well to my weed smoking days.
Oh, wow.
So out of school I went and ended up waiting tables and just working in retail, kind of some odd jobs.
Yeah.
And then I had a friend from back home who had joined the Navy and seemed like he was doing well on social media. And I was actually 21 when I joined the Navy.
Wow. Let me talk though about talk. I want to talk a little bit deeper about that because talk about letdown and disappointment, right? Obviously, it was based on decisions that you made, right?
Of
Obviously,
course, of course.
but how did that like you had a scholarship to play baseball, and then did they kick you off the team?
Yeah, kicked it off the team, and then I couldn't pay for school,
Oh, so you lost
so
your scholarship.
lost the scholarship. Yeah, because it was
Now,
all baseball.
Now, how did that like make you like talk about that? I mean, because that had to been like devastating.
Yes and no. I think at the time I was just so naive that I didn't realize the gravity of the situation.
Yeah,
It was kind of a shoulder shrug. Okay, I'll go get a job now,
yeah,
and I didn't give up on that. I tried to, keep playing baseball and I did it for a few more years while working, part-time or full-time jobs. I played in kind of some semi-pro leagues, just trying to stay around it because I love the game, but eventually I realized that it wouldn't go anywhere. There was nowhere else to go.
So was it like it a part of your goal and your vision to go play in the major leagues? I mean, like was that like growing up as a kid? Did you want to be a professional baseball
Oh,
player?
for sure, for sure. Growing up, that was my goal.
Wow.
um, and it's funny that I look back on it now because it didn't affect me the way that you would think it would.
Right.
Again, I think I was just naive to the gravity of
Yeah.
of the opportunity that I had just lost.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't my path. I think
Yeah.
when I look back at it, I think it wasn't my path.
Yeah, it's
Um,
amazing how sometimes we set out to have a path, and then God just kind of like redirects it, and then when we get to where we are, we're like, yeah, this is the path I was supposed to be on. And so yeah, no, I have a guy on my team. He's also my ops manager. His name's Juan. He grew up in the Dominican Republic, and he in Dominican, everything's baseball. Like they start training
right.
you at 5, 6 years old, and he got into the minor league for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he was getting ready to go to play for the Diamondbacks, and blew out his shoulder, and his career was done. And
Man.
so like talk about, and like for him that was like devastating because that's how you made it, right? If you were from Dominican. But it's amazing to see now where he's at now. Same thing. It was like that wasn't God's path for him, and now where he is and what he's doing, it just makes sense. But when you're in it, it's not as easy. And so you go from the playing baseball, losing your scholarship, then did you go right into the Navy?
Yeah, after working a few odd jobs for about 2 years, and I was trying to get back into baseball shape, I guess. Um, so I ended up pushing it off until 21. At the age of 21, I came in the
Okay.
Navy.
Yep.
Yep.
And so you went
During
into
that
the
time,
Navy at 21 years
yep.
old.
During that, yep.
Nice.
Bounced around the U.S. A couple of different schools. I did a temporary assignment for a few months down in Cuba, Guantanamo Bay.
Wow.
Um, Luckily, never really had to deploy, never had to see, and this was, during the height of the global war on terrorism.
Yep.
So 2000, I came in 2006 at the end of '06. So we were, full swing in the war, and I was lucky enough to never have to see any of that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I went to work every day in an
Yeah.
office. I just wore a uniform to work. Really, that was what it came down to.
Nice. Nice. And so, how many years into the Navy were you introduced to real estate, or did you get your real estate license?
So I got my real estate license in 2011, so 5 years in. Um, but I had been working in construction, for about a year and a half prior to that.
Yeah. Did you plan on like when you went into the Navy? Because I know, like my buddy who I grew up with just like retired at 40 in the military because he went in right out of high school and he served in the I think it was the Air Force or the Navy for a long time. And did you plan on going in for life, or were you just trying to do the 4 years and then it turned into six? How did that end up working out?
So looking back at it, I knew the situation that I was in my hometown was not a good situation.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a house with two roommates, and I knew that I needed to get away. So the Navy was just an escape. I didn't have
Okay.
a forward plan.
Yeah.
And now looking back at it, both of those roommates that I lived with prior to the Navy have since passed away. And
Wow. It
and
in
we're
in
all
in the
go ahead.
military, did they pass away in like duty?
No. This was civilian world before the
Okay.
Navy,
Okay.
um, and both passed away in their mid 30s because of
Oh
again
wow.
small town, not a lot going on, not a lot of opportunity. One had an accident at work. One fell into the drug scene, and
Wow.
eventually, they took both their lives. So
Oh wow. Well, I'm glad you made it, man. And here you are today doing some great stuff. And so you get into real estate, and how long was it until you're like, this is it, and I'm doing this before you kind of got out
immediately.
of immediately? So you knew it right away.
Immediately. So once I got into it, I fell in love with it, and about 6 months later, transitioned out of the military,
Okay. So just
and it
six,
was
and that was it.
that
That's
was
all
it.
she
Real
wrote.
estate was, well, I wish. Real estate was that was the goal. That was the separation plan.
Yeah,
Um, my my first full year in real estate, I made over $100,000 for the first time in my life, and I thought I
that's
was on top
awesome.
of the world.
Yep.
Uh, and then I got a bill from the IRS for $42,000,
Right.
and
You're like, oh, I forgot to put that
oh,
aside.
yeah, yeah, I wasn't expecting that. And then honestly, shortly after is when I stepped away from real estate. So, you alluded to having done this a few times. This is now my
Yep.
third, I could even argue my fourth try at real estate before I finally got it right.
Wow. Let's talk about that. I mean, because, there's obviously a lot of real estate agents that listen to this show. And I think a lot of people who get into real estate, I always joke, like, they think that what they see on HGTV or A&E, right? Like $1 Million Listing or, Sell, whatever those shows are called. They're all excited. They're like, yes, this is going to be great. And then they get in and they're like, that's definitely not what I saw on TV.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well,
Talk about like, let's talk about your journey on what you've had to go through to get where you are right now.
yeah, so after that first year, things were going well, in the business, but I was so focused on growing the business that I was not focused on my family.
Mm,
I kind of lost sight of I was doing this for my family, but it was taking 14-hour days, and I wasn't spending any time with my family. That
mm,
was the whole motivation for getting out of the military so I could be a more present father.
yep.
While on active duty, I had my first son, and I wasn't there, and it caused all these issues at home. I got really good at golf because I played a lot of golf for some reason. I thought that's what realtors were supposed to do. Um, and it eventually led to a breaking point in my relationship.
Mm,
So my child's mother and I split, and at that point, my mind just wasn't in it anymore.
wow.
I fought it. I fought for another 2 or 3 months to try and get my focus back, um, and it didn't work.
Mm,
So I stepped away not only from the real estate industry, but I moved away from Virginia. I went back to my hometown where my friends passed away.
wow.
I went back to my hometown because I needed to be around family,
Right.
and what it was I didn't have any family.
Mm,
Even my kid's mom took my son and moved, about 200 miles away. So there was really nothing holding me where I was, um, and I just wasn't right in the mental space.
yeah.
And
Wow.
I walked away from a successful real estate career, with an honorable discharge from the military, and I went to work at a pizza shop.
Wow. Talk about a journey, right? I mean, most people don't know the backstory, right? They don't know
Right.
all the ins and outs, but you touched on something that I think a lot of people, especially men, again, it's so funny. Was just talking about this yesterday. I think that as men, we're driven, to work and provide and to be successful. And I remember when I first got my first year in real estate, because Joy and I were, we had been struggling financially. We were on food stamps. We were, just struggling. And it was like, I like flipped the switch, right? That's one of the things we talk about at Glover. You flip the switch. Like I flipped the switch and grinded and worked and did whatever it took. And I was doing it for them as well. But it's like you said, like when you have kids, they don't care how much money you have in the bank. They don't care what kind of car you
Yeah.
drive. They don't care what kind of success that you have. They just want to know you're present. And I think it's super hard in this business because it's not a 9 to 5 and because it really is a 24/7 type of business. If you don't put boundaries in, that it will literally run you and consume you. And I mean, most real estate agents work 7 days a week and don't even take a day off. And it's so hard. And so how did you rebound? Like, how did you come back from, from moving away, your wife, your kid's mom, like moving away? Like, how did you get back?
It took a few more tries.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to work in a pizza shop, and I worked as a restaurant manager just for a few years. I needed a job, and that position fit itself. And then during that time, that's when I met my wife, Stephanie.
Mm.
Oddly enough, I was standing at the counter, and she walked in as a customer, and I kind of knew the first time I saw her. She wasn't aware yet, but I knew.
You knew she was the
I knew.
one.
I knew that I was going to marry her.
That's awesome.
And I made a post on Facebook the other day about the difference that she has made in my life.
Mm.
Um, I had always been somewhat, uh, what's the word, like a lone wolf, independent, kind
Yeah.
of do my own thing. And when I put a partner by my side, it changed my world.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah,
And so how
and
long have
there,
you guys
there's
been how long have you guys been married?
November will be 5 years, so this will be our fifth year. Been together
Nice.
8 years.
8 years.
Yep.
Okay.
8 years. And I mean, like, to the point of where, I got fired from my pizza shop job, and she held me down. I tried to get back into real estate in 2017. Now, mind you, the distance here is kind of the thing to keep in mind. So we lived in North Carolina. I sold real estate in Virginia. It's about 250 miles between home
Wow.
and where I work.
Yeah.
Um, so we made a decision that, okay, I got fired from my pizza shop job. Let's try real estate again. So I called up a buddy of mine, rented a room from a friend, moved back to Virginia, left my family back in North Carolina, and tried real estate for about 4 or 5 months back
Yeah.
in 2017, and it just didn't work. We were
Mm.
too far apart. We weren't in a place in our relationship where we were entirely comfortable being apart. It was still kind of new,
Yeah.
and we had challenges and we had struggles, and eventually, again, I stepped away from real estate
Yeah.
and went to, in a corporate America job, and that was kind of like the humbling experience when I went back to working on a factory floor at 15 bucks an hour, 16 bucks an hour
Right.
in a that I had no experience. I had no reason to even be working in this place. If you had
Right.
asked me, 10 years ago, where do you see yourself? It would not have been
In a
making
factory.
Amazon boxes.
Right. Now, did you go back to North Carolina to,
Yeah.
okay, so you go back to North Carolina to be with your wife, and you start working in the factory. How long did you do that?
So I was there for about 3.5 years, and that's kind of where we found our groove.
Mm.
We got married during that time. We bought our first house together during that time. I finished both bachelor's and master's degrees during that time because I had that support system, man, and she was instrumental to all of it. And I know, you know, one of the things that we discussed prior to the call was the multicultural household. My wife is Hispanic, and
Yep.
it's a different work ethic
Yeah.
that most Hispanics bring, and seeing
Yep.
that in her inspired me to be better for my
Yep.
family.
Yep.
um, and life
That's
was
cool.
good.
We're both
Life
we're
was
both married to Hispanic women. That's awesome.
right. And life was good, man. We were happy. Everything was going well, and then the pandemic happened.
Man.
And
Can't
then the
believe it's been
pandemic
three
happened.
years.
3 years
Three
this month. It's
years.
crazy.
Yep. Yep. And so you were in North Carolina when the pandemic hit?
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. The world shut down, right? So we don't
Yep.
have to dive into that too
Right.
deeply. But
Right.
my job, I was a senior marketing manager. I had moved up from factory floor up to senior marketing manager within the company, and they sent us all to work from home.
Yeah.
Um, a few months into COVID, one of my really good friends from back in Virginia opened a brokerage. They threw a big grand opening party, and I remember it to this day, July 25th, 2020. Big grand opening party. My son and I drove the 4 hours from North Carolina to Virginia,
Wow.
honestly, just to support a friend who was opening a brokerage.
Yep.
And that same night, I drove back home, walked in the door, and told my wife that I was getting back into real estate. And she said, "Okay." That was July 25th, Labor Day weekend. So about 40 days later, Labor Day weekend, I moved back to Virginia, left my
Wow.
family in North Carolina, while still having my corporate job because we were working remotely due to COVID. So
Wow.
for most people, man, COVID was devastating to a large portion of the world.
Yep.
I am one of the few people that I know of. COVID changed my life,
Wow.
but for the better, not for the
Yeah.
worse. It
Yeah.
it changed the trajectory of generations of my family to come.
Wow. And that's amazing because what I love about your story, Andy, is again, there's probably a lot of people who see your success today and they have no clue what you've gone through to get where you are because it's not like you just got into real estate, everything clicked, and boom, you're this success story. You've actually failed more times you've succeeded, right? Like
Yes.
you went at this multiple times before it even worked. I mean, what kept you coming back? I mean, was it knowing what was possible? Was it knowing that you could figure it out? I mean, like what brought, because this time that you moved to Virginia after COVID or during COVID, this is when it started to click, right?
Right.
So
Right.
talk about that.
It was Kate Simon says it best about what does success look like in this season of my life,
She's my favorite.
and at my new coach, by the way.
Yeah, she's the best. Shout out to Kate
So
Simon.
shout out Kate. I think it was a time. So I wanted to keep coming back because yes, I always knew what was possible.
Yep.
I always had a passion for the industry.
Yep.
Um, Even during that time after the pizza shop, I went to work for a team as almost an ISA, a sales and
Yep.
marketing director, not as a licensed agent, just managing stuff for a team.
Yep.
I've always been drawn to the industry, and I've always loved the industry. Um, we are a heavy military area, so first time home buyers, young, 18, 19, 20. These people are buying their first house and starting to build wealth at a very early age, and I love being a part
Wow.
of that.
That's great.
Um, but I kind of got just sidetracked from the question. But yeah, just I knew the possibilities that were there. I knew
Yep.
that I enjoyed it, and I knew that I could do it.
Yeah.
I just hadn't been able to do it yet.
Yeah. So what changed? Like what is different this time around? Because I want to talk about what changed, but then I want to talk about, where your success is today because it's pretty amazing, right? I mean, it's not, you're not just doing good things, you're doing great things. But what you go back to Virginia, you're there. What changed? Where did it click? What was different this time? And then let's talk about where you're at today.
So rarely is real estate a first career choice for
Right.
almost everyone, with the exception of maybe Jeff Glover, right? I, I don't know many people that did it at an early age. So, having experienced other career fields, um, having matured a little bit, I was in my 30s now. I originally got in the business in my 20s,
Yep.
and I don't think I was mature enough
Hmm.
or disciplined enough. Even coming out of the military, I didn't have the necessary discipline to continue doing it at a high level, which is why I failed.
Yep.
Now, more disciplined, more educated, a supportive partner by my side, you
Yeah.
know, motivation pushing me. I think those things combined made the difference. It put
Wow.
all the pieces fell into place finally,
The
right?
timing was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And the
solid.
market helped during COVID.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That market through COVID really catapulted things, and really changed even the trajectory, for Joy and I, and what we were able to do from a production standpoint, and the opportunities that it brought. Like you said, many people were impacted in a negative way, but there was some great things that did come out of it, that obviously have been a blessing to you. And so, where are you at today? I know I talked a little bit about it and mentioned some things about you, but you co-own 5 brokerage offices. Two are fully functional, 3 more are going to be opening this summer. You own a title company. You manage daily operations for 1 location. You coach agents, and lead over 150 agents, all the while still selling 75 plus homes a year. I mean, that's phenomenal, bro. Congratulations. Honestly, that's huge.
Well, I don't do it alone.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest piece here is we've got a team of people that make it possible.
Right.
I mentioned my friend that had opened his brokerage and prompted my move back to Virginia.
Yeah.
That's one of my business partners now.
That's
Um,
awesome.
as we grew, as I grew my business and kind of led from the front, it was recognized by the ownership, and they brought me into that group.
That's
Um,
amazing.
we started in May of 2020, so we officially did the grand opening party in July, but the office was open in May with 19 agents in May of 2020. We're at right about 150 now. Um,
Wow.
and that was out of one office. We grew to a second office, which is my office that I run in 2021. And like you said, there's 3 more coming. So without without the help of those other 4 partners, all also veterans, so we're 100% veteran owned.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
same for the title company. Without
Yeah.
those guys, none of this is possible.
Yeah. So why Iron Valley? Tell us what that means. What's the meaning behind Iron Valley?
So the motto of Iron Valley is "Do your thing,"
Mm,
and we mean that in every sense of the word. I love the fact that our top selling agent in our brokerage is full time active duty Navy.
wow.
Um, he has a full time active duty wife. They have 2 kids under the age of 4, and he probably sold close to 25 million in volume last year.
That's phenomenal.
I never see the guy, and that's
Yeah.
okay. That's what we took out of the military were all of the good parts that we liked.
Yep.
When I got out of the Navy, I missed the people. I didn't miss the work. I didn't miss the job. I missed the people and the camaraderie.
Yeah.
So we have recreated that within our brokerage. We have a camaraderie. We have a family, and it's a culture unlike anything I've seen.
Wow.
And
That's
and
phenomenal.
and with 5 owners, all of our owners are still in production. We're all high level producers. My door is open.
Yeah.
My calendar is on my door, and I highlight spots where if you need help with anything, if you need marketing help, cold call help, operations help, you want to start a team, hire an admin, doesn't matter. Come on in. We'll talk to you about it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I get
Yeah.
asked all the time, what's the secret to Iron Valley's growth? And the secret is that there are no secrets.
Right.
It's collaboration over competition. Let's
Yep.
let's all work together to make everyone rise.
Yep. I love it. I love collaboration. I mean, you know, that to me, that's one of the things that make what you do so special is you get to collaborate and work with people you actually want to work with, and that challenge you, that encourage you, that make you better. And especially when the collaboration is, people moving forward in the same direction is what I love about collaboration. And so, if somebody's listening right now, Andy, like, because we know that the market is shifting, right? The market is changing. There's challenges. There's probably real estate agents right now that are thinking about calling it quits, right? Maybe they got started, they had some success, the market's changing, they're struggling, they're thinking about giving it up, throwing in the towel. Maybe there's somebody listening who's like, I want to come back and give it a second chance. What would you say to the Andy Nelson that's out there right now of what you've had to go through in the past?
So I equate this to the analogy, when one door closes, another door opens. Well, when I look back at what's happened in my real estate career, the real estate door has closed a few times, but I wasn't ready for it to close. So instead of moving to the next door, I kept coming back to the real estate door and I kept knocking until I finally got let in.
Mm,
And I think that's what it's about. And you have to do it for the right reasons.
yep.
If if your goal in real estate is to make a lot of money because you want to make a lot of money, it's probably not the right reason.
Right.
Your goal should be to take care of people, to service clients, to build generational wealth for your family. Yes,
Right.
those are all great things. So find the motivation,
Mm,
make sure that your motivation is in line, and then chase that.
that's so
If
good.
if real estate is if real estate is a part-time gig that's just, something to do in your free time or a hobby, yeah, it's probably not going to be something that you pursue heavily.
Right.
But this is where I wanted to be. This is what I wanted to do with my life because since, just moving back and selling a house, like you mentioned, we've gone from a solo agent to, a brokerage of over 150 agents, to title companies, to flipping houses, to buying rental properties in a short period of time because we did it with intention.
Right.
Because the motivation was not just about making money.
Yep.
I'm 37. I'll be 38 this year. My goal is to retire at 45.
Yeah.
I said 55, and Kate made me change it to 45. Um,
Kate will do that. She'll definitely challenge you. That's for sure.
but I think that's it. Like if if the door is closing on something that you want, don't move on to the next door until you've exhausted all options to get in.
Yeah. That's so good. And I appreciate you sharing that because I think so often when obstacles show up, which they will, hard times come, which they will, people just throw in the towel too easily. And I put something on my Facebook yesterday and I heard this and it said, if you're already thinking about plan B, plan A is never going to work. Right. And your story is it just falls in line with the story of success, right? Because you look at the Colonel, right? Colonel Sanders of KFC. The dude knocked on 1,000 doors and was told no before he was told yes, to where his famous recipe became a thing, right? Like you look at all of these stories of people who are super successful, and if there was just one thing, right? If there was one word, if there was one, word to describe, what has brought you to this point, what would it be?
Ooh, my my gut response goes to grit.
Mm,
I think having that grit is probably the biggest key. But I also can't say that and not say Stephanie
mm,
because that to me that was the biggest motivating factor was my wife.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Now,
awesome.
granted, it took grit to get through a lot of that.
Yep.
It took grit to keep coming back, but without her, my my level of give a damn
Yeah.
decreases, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
doing it for her,
Right.
not just for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, man. How can people get a hold of you if somebody's in your area? Because you guys, what area are you in? Are you guys just in Virginia?
So I service basically all the way from Richmond, Virginia, down to the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
Outer Banks. That's my kid's favorite show. And I heard
It's
it's not
filmed in
even.
South Carolina,
Yeah, I was
or
gonna
filmed in
say,
North
yeah,
Carolina.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And so you cover
one
those
of the two.
areas. And if someone wants to reach out to you, maybe it's a real estate agent listening in the area that wants to learn more about what you guys are doing over at Iron Valley. Maybe it's somebody who is listening that wants to buy or sell a home, or if it's an agent who has a referral to send your way. How can people get a hold of you, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, direct line is the easiest way.
Yep.
Cell phone, email, and I can drop those if you want.
Yeah, you go ahead and drop them, and we're going to put them on the screen as well.
Okay, cool. So it's Andy at ironvalley757.com. That's my email. Social is at ironvalley757. And my website is ironvalley757. And then coincidentally enough, my phone area code is 336. So my cell phone is 336-327-6492. Text, email, call, Facebook, whatever. We're always down to help. That's kind of the biggest part. And that's one of the draws to Glover as well.
Yep.
Broker agnostic,
Yep.
collaboration, and
Yep.
we follow that model.
Man, we're honored not only to have you in the Glover U family, but honored to have you on the show today, man. Super appreciate you coming on and really sharing your story. And again, for those that are listening right now, it really isn't how you start, right? It's how you finish, and that's my tagline. That's what I always say, because we all go through things, we all experience hard times. And when you make a decision that quitting is not an option, success is bound to happen. And so, Andy, I really, really appreciate you being a guest on the show. And am I going to see you in June up in Traverse City?
Probably not in Traverse City, but probably at Lead Up in May.
In May. Awesome. Well, I
Yeah.
can't wait to see you, man. Appreciate you, buddy. And it was great having you on the show today.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Justin.
Awesome. Guys, really appreciate you tuning in for another episode. Do want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Nextdoor Lending. Nextdoor Lending is a team of professionals that believe everyone should be treated as if they live next door. This is my personal lender. Guys, I personally send every single buyer that I work with over to Nextdoor Lending. And the reason why is this: not only do they offer 5-star service, their team of professionals are trained at a high level to make sure that my clients and your clients, if you're an agent, or if you're listening as a buyer, that you have the best experience, the best rate, and terms. If you're interested and you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or you're an agent and you want to connect with Nextdoor Lending, reach out to them today and tell them Justin Ford sent you. Give them a call today at 888-885-3667 or visit their website at nextdoorlending.com. Guys, if you love the show, share it, right? Reach out to Andy, incredible agent, incredible person, incredible story. Guys, share the show on your page. If you haven't followed me yet on social media, you can at the official Justin Ford. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Leave us a review. And I always like to leave you with 2 things before we end the episode. Number 1, it's not how you start. What matters is how you finish. And number 2, with God, all things are possible. God bless you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.